Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
If I were a stand-up comic, I could, no, but I'm not. Well, I want to welcome everybody to East End Books Ptown, and we're excited to have you here tonight for this phenomenal book, Hush Little Fire, which is, when I got my advanced review copy, I read it right away and could not stop because I had to know what was going to happen and how it would end. And of course, I love Judith, so I mean, even if it wasn't phenomenal, which it is, I would never say it. It's a fantastic book. I'm just kind of wondering, it's like, you know, who are some of these people? Are they really there? And of course, you know, it was really cool because, of course, there's no relation at all between Judith and one of the lead characters, who's a potter as well, and everything else. But I mean, I just, it's really kind of wonderful to have a character like that because, you know, I've been in that store a number of times and love it. And Vaso, from Sanasi Gallery, is trying to come tonight, who's been with me a couple times into her fantastic gallery in Wellfleet. And you can go online and order her beautiful stuff online as well. And we were talking a little bit about you last night with David Denby, so that was interesting after the event. David from the New Yorker, and he's got the book. Anyway, this summer, for those of you that come every summer, you will notice something different. There's no longer piles of cement and stuff back here. There's a beautiful waterfront public park that the town has done, I think, a fantastic job on. It's lovely to see people reading out there, to see kids throwing balls and having fun, and to see dogs out there. It's just lovely. And then, of course, direct access to the town beach there, but not just for those of us that can walk easily. There's very good handicap access and a ramp. And also, unlike other beachy areas, and there's not a bunch of pebbles. Is it possible to navigate in a wheelchair down here? You see how the town really packed it down so you can easily go down with the wheelchair. So I just think that's fantastic that there's access for everybody to be out there. And so if you haven't gotten a chance to go out there, check that out. So what's coming up? Just the next couple events. Everything is on our website. We've got a big lineup as usual. We had David Denby with the New Yorker last night. We still have a few remaining signed copies of his new book, Eminent Jews, which is inside. Tomorrow night we have Disco Witches of Fire Island with Blair Fell. This is a fantastic book that's having like a viral moment. He will be talking with Phil Jimenez, who's a major artist with Marvel Comics. So that's tomorrow at 6. And then we move off-site Wednesday for the 4th year in a row, the Hebridean Baker, in from Scotland with his latest book and a new short documentary that's been made about him in Europe. And that will be at Ken Folk's Provincetown Art Society, the former Mary Eaton Bourse residence. And for that particular event, the tickets all go through Provincetown Art Society. If you can't attend, but you want a copy of his newest cookbook signed or his previous two, you can buy them here in the store, or if you're watching on the live stream, you can order it online. And if you want a signed copy, we'll get it signed for you on Wednesday, which means it'll be getting to ship out on Thursday and Friday. So that's coming up. All right, what else should I mention? We got some at Casey Sherman back with a new book, Blood on the Water, on July 24th, which already is set to be made into a movie. We have his producing partner. They write a lot of the biggest movies in Hollywood, and his producing partner, Dave Edge, is going to be here on July 19th with this book, Blood and Hate, which is all about the marvelous Marvin Hagler. And he's going to be here with State Representative Kip Diggs, who was a former pro boxer, and they'll be in conversation together, so that's going to be really interesting. Okay, next month, save the date, August 15th. I'm proud to co-chair with Ptown resident Neil Jacobs an event that will benefit the Theater Offensive from Boston, which is a groundbreaking theater company, and they've been around a long time, and they do shows all across Boston. But I'm co-chairing this event, and one December 7th with Christy Cashman at the Quinn. It's a former Algonquin, the private club in Boston that Ken Folk designed. And the theater company is for everyone, and I've gone to many productions, but it's working hard to make space available for Black and brown, queer and trans playwrights. And we are building a theater. I'm chairing their capital campaign. The theater is going to be built in the Fenway. And we're close to reaching the final goals. And just so you know, anybody that's considering contributing to this effort, a lot of people ask, understandably, with theater groups and other groups, hey, if I give money, how do I know, you're not going to be gone in 2 years when the rent gets jacked up high, or if you lose your lease, that kind of thing. Well, thanks to former Mayor Marty Walsh, the Theater Offensive has a 99-year lease set, and the rent is fixed at $100 a month through the term of that. So I think anybody, that they'll be around. So we're very excited to be a part of that. There will be performances by here at the Commons on August 15th by Neon Calypso, Amanda Shea, and Letta Neely, flying in from LA, New York, and other areas. And the catering's by one of my favorites here, Bespoke Soirees, New England. Thank you, Greg. He's also the main caterer for Provincetown Art Society. Okay, so those are coming up. And now, if I can do this. See, we are a true independent bookstore, juggling many things. Thank you. So I wanted to just get a few things here from you. So I just love this part that's on the website that Judith has. So of course, from her Cape Cod studio, Judith Newcomb Stiles creates original ceramics inspired by the textures and vibrant colors of the seashore. While she waits for her pots to dry, she writes. Her short stories and essays could be found in Hemingway Shorts, Kenyon Review, where she received an honorable mention, Room Magazine, first prize essay, the Ex-Puritan, and the New York Times. She lives with her partner in crime, Mr. O'Hara, who I still haven't met, who helps clean up the house when their 3 kids, Julia, Jane, and Johnny, come to visit. And so then just this little bit about the book, which is just, you're not going to be able to stop reading it once you start, just so you know. Secrets implode and generations of lies boil over into deadly consequences when a suspicious fire breaks out Christmas night on Cape Cod. This enthralling and darkly humorous debut novel of abortion, adoption, and long-buried truths will captivate readers who love lessons in chemistry and where the Crawdads sing. Just incredible book. I talked to other independent bookstore owners, friends of mine, and the book is selling like crazy there, just like it is here at our store in Provincetown and our store in the Boston Seaport. I mean, you must be thrilled, Judith, and I just want to congratulate you, first of all, on writing an incredible book. But from my understanding and my friends at Penguin Random House, it's selling like hotcakes. So congratulations. Congratulations.
Yay.
And without further ado, Judith Newcomb Stiles, who I want to thank for the beautiful bowl that she made for me and delivered to the store. It's just lovely.
A potter's custom is to give a bowl when you want to thank somebody for something. And I thanked Jeff for loving books, for putting the books out there. Woohoo! Okay, so this is my gizmo.
It is.
Okay. Now, I would like very much to read from the. It was very hard to decide what to read, but I did.
It's on. It was on. Is it on? It was on.
Hello?
Turn it back on. It was on.
Hello?
Yeah, it's on now.
Is this good?
Yes,
I'm going to
thank you.
ask my twin, Mary Beth, we have the same earrings on, to hold the microphone while I read so I can just focus on reading. How's that?
That's good.
Okay. So first I was going to read the really sort of serious core of the book, which is really about what women did about unwanted pregnancies before Roe v. Wade. But then I thought, everybody's kind of in a bad mood lately, so I would read something that is not so intense. It's intense, but it's true. And I would read something about Provincetown in the book, and about making art, because we have a painter here in the audience, so that's cool. And another artist over here, a couple artists, yeah. So this is perfect. Just to give you an idea, one of the main characters in the book, throughout the book, is named Bertie. Her real name's Beatrice. And she's a grandmother in the book, but this is a rewind to 1963, when she's remembering 1963 and taking her first art class in Provincetown, and how exciting it was. I made it.
I'm wondering if it's better if I stand on that side because you're holding it with the right hand and that whole thing might be like more.
Whatever you think is good.
All right, well, let's
sister.
do a little trial to make sure everybody can hear you.
Just close to
Okay,
her
so
mouth.
how are you hearing me?
Close to the mouth.
Because I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
Elizabeth. I'm like 90% deaf, so I don't know what I sound like.
Close
You
to the
gotta
mouth.
tell me if you can't
You got to
hear
keep
me.
it close to the
Can
mouth.
you hear me?
That's perfect.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
That's very good.
All right. So one of the main characters, which is really multiple people, it's kind of like a Greek chorus in the book, is the old ladies gossip militia. Now, every town and every state has a gossip militia, but they're very, very active in Wellfleet. Oh my God! If you go to the Wellfleet Library now, up till the 25th, you can meet some of them because I have art that I made, sculptures of several of them. Some of them are on wooden crosses because they're becoming uncrucified. Janice, you gotta see these.
I will.
Okay. And I had a wonderful time making them. It was like parts of the book were like pouring out into the clay, and I just I didn't want to stop, but I had to stop because it was the deadline. But then you will see I found a little photograph of the elderly women in my family, the Newcomb women. That's a big name in the book. And they're kind of clustered around the house that I live in. It's from years ago, and they're just in true form. And I took the little photograph and blew it up, and it's in the exhibit. So you get to meet some real live members of the Old Ladies Gossip Militia. Okay. So this is Bertie, going back to 1963, which is a younger woman in Wellfleet. And it's called Fodder for the Old Ladies Gossip Militia. I am certain the Old Ladies Gossip Militia was founded on the Mayflower. Sorry, I just like to look at people.
I'm sure.
Okay. I am certain the Old Ladies Gossip Militia was founded on the Mayflower in an informal, unorganized way when the women had time to talk while cooking or sewing or swabbing vomit off the deck into the sea. It's not in a history book or anything, but our women became the historians of all things Cape Cod for centuries without writing anything down. No membership fees or formal meetings, just information passed through the grapevine was the best way to keep secrets from becoming too secret. An anonymous member of the 1963 Old Ladies Gossip Militia was caught blabbing gossip about us Newcomb girls again. She said to anyone who'd listen that my sister-in-law, Clara Newcomb, and Bertie Brains, that's what she called me, were spotted driving to Provincetown for art classes, and it was confirmed that neither of us housewives had a valid driver's license. Clara was teaching me how to drive a stick shift without any help from a man. She drove her husband's truck with me, shotgun, while we argued about if it was tacky, maybe premature, to wear my new black beret to art class. Clara said, only artists in New York City wear berets, as she turned on the radio, which was blasting President Johnson's speech at headache level. Turn it off, I can't think when he whines. Yes, sirree, I grabbed the knob on the radio so hard it popped off. The president is a nincompoop, Clara said, gunning the engine and checking her lipstick in the rearview mirror. She was pushing 70 miles an hour all the way to Provincetown so we wouldn't be late for our class with a cute teacher who happened to be French. The inspiring art teacher had changed everything for us, and we felt like real artists when we discovered how to observe and interpret the world in new ways. In our first class, just before the water break, Antoine, the art teacher, leaned over Clara's shoulder, his arm casually skimming her breast, as he told her the sky doesn't have to be blue. You can paint the sky any color you want, he said, adding a dab of red to her sky, his elbow wiggling each breast. This was just probably the exact moment in time when he and Clara began their ravenous affair. And observing that red dab of paint land on Clara's flat blue sky catapulted me into my own ravenous spell of oil painting. It was also the moment in time when the sword fight of do's and don'ts broke out in the center of my mind. Do this, don't do that, something I heard all my life. But after the dab of red paint, I killed the bossy voice in my head and painted all kinds of Cape Cod scenes that were staked out in my memory. I liked to paint by the stove in my kitchen, and I went to bed smelling of turpentine. Okay. Clara's husband, Big James, had a son to raise, but he was gone at sea, or so he said, although he called from Las Vegas a few times. Big James was a man whose body seemed too big to live on land, bumping into my precious things whenever he came to visit. Last time I saw him, he knocked over a lamp when his big restless hand lunged under the shade, clumsily looking for the switch. Each time Big James came back, he brought a cheap present for his son, like a plastic water pistol from Nova Scotia. And he made hollow promises that little Jimmy could be the cabin boy on the next trip. I got in a loud argument with Big James, yelling at him he must never promise that to Jimmy again. Every time you come back, you promise the poor boy he can come with you. Jimmy will be a cabin boy over my dead body, I said, trying to control the hissing in my voice. Why not? Big James said, with a weird look on his face. I heard what cabin boys did in the olden days. You don't know what you're talking about. Cabin boys do chores and learn about life at sea. No way. A little boy out at sea for months with a bunch of horny old sailors? What about school? Big James just laughed, which made his eyelids quiver. But I knew, and all the elderly women on Cape Cod knew, that in the olden days, cabin boys did double duty, sexually pleasuring the sailors who got too pent up at sea. Sailors and pirates who were much too far away from their wives in taverns, anxious to stick it in a hole somewhere. Big James adamantly denied any such thing ever happened on ships. But I could see. But I couldn't help but notice how sheepish he looked as he stuffed the peanut butter sandwich into his mouth, the whole entire sandwich in one fibber's bite. It bothered me a lot that random men like Big James, had a knack for invading my thoughts uninvited, especially in art class, when the painting teacher droned on and on about famous men painters from France we should admire. I wished Antoine would shut up. I was dying to ask Clara what she thought of that lady from New York who went undercover and dressed up as a Playboy bunny. You mean Gloria Steinem? Whispered Clara when Antoine left the room. Yeah, that one. I really like her hair. I love the extra streak of blonde in the front. I added a streak of yellow to my ocean waves, and the coincidence was thrilling. I don't know. If she doesn't bleach that streak properly, she'll look like a skunk. Just one streak is enough, Clara whispered, frantically applying more lipstick. She blotted her lips on a tissue and muttered, Gloria Steinem is just another rich bitch from the city telling us what we should and shouldn't do, like, don't wear a bra. Oh, please, that would make my boobies sag. I like to agree with Clara on most issues because it was easier to agree than argue with my only friend, my sister-in-law. I didn't want to ruin things with Clara, but what I really wanted to say to Clara and all the other gossips in town was, Gloria Steinem has gorgeous hair. She doesn't look like a skunk. And Gloria most definitely has a point. The way she talks got me thinking I have the right to paint in my kitchen whenever I want. During that year of exciting painting classes, Clara became pregnant, maybe Antoine, and she tried to hide it even with me. I felt like Clara was 10 steps ahead of me, ahead of the times when she started talking about leaving Cape Cod and liberating herself from this place. At first, hiding the pregnancy worked okay because everyone wore layers of clothing in the winter. But Big James was still gone, but he was coming back, and Clara was planning her escape from Cape Cod. She talked about Canada because it was close, but still another country. It was obvious that Clara was pregnant, and one night, without any warning, she packed her car to leave. But before she set out for Canada, she dropped little Jimmy off at my house with a note pinned to her chest that said, "Be back soon, but until then, please look after my boy." Clara came back all right, but in an aluminum urn of ashes, along with a small jar that held the ashes of a premature baby. The painting classes ended for me because Clara died in childbirth, and I felt like a big part of my soul drained out of my body would never be refilled. The emptiness was back. I missed Clara terribly and hid the black beret for myself in a place where I'd never remember to find it. It became impossible to think about art with Clara gone. Sometimes I felt like blowing my brains out. Hello. Yeah, I like that too. I even left parts of it out, but you can buy the book and read it.
Any juicy details you want to give us, or any tidbits, or anything you want to say? I know we'll have audience questions, of course.
When I was talking about the core of the book, the whole sort of beginning of the book happened when I wrote an article for an Italian publication called "Who is the Boss of Her Body?" And it's a great publication. They can't publish anything. I wrote about all things American, and this was a pretty intense article. It was written in 2022, so this was before Roe v. Wade was overturned, and I had a feeling trouble was coming. And in the article I talked about how that someday maybe Roe v. Wade will become a moot point and no longer a discussion, because in Norway they had invented faux wombs, fake wombs that are like plastic bags full of amniotic fluid, and they were growing lambs in these bags, and that someday, not too far in the future, we could be seeing young girls getting their tubes tied, sterilizing themselves, at the doctor's office, and freezing their eggs so that they could pick and choose when they want to grow a baby, right? And so that seemed pretty outrageous that they had invented this for lambs, but thank God they hadn't invented it for people. And that became the seed of what the grandmother predicts. And then so like a month ago, maybe 2 years after I had written this article, Roe v. Wade gets overturned, and I was told by an agent that I had back then, "Oh, it's a radioactive subject, don't write about that, it's a done deal." But I didn't believe that. So I just read last month, 2 months ago maybe, that this is actually beginning to happen in Europe. that young women are getting their tubes tied, freezing their eggs, and choosing when they want to become pregnant and not have to worry about accidents, so to speak, which really freaked me out because, oh my God, there it is, really beginning. So who knows? So that's the core of the book, but also without judgment. So you will see when you read it that sometimes through the portal of humor, you will learn, why women who had 4 children in a row got an abortion. And you actually might laugh when you read this because it's kind of a ridiculous circumstance. And it comes up several times in the book without judgment. All I'm doing is putting the lens on what happened to young women, married women who had too many children. And I think it's important to do that. But I also had it's a straight line mystery. Okay, who started the fire that burned down the old clinic, right? And by the way, if you guess who it is, if you guess correctly, and it's Reader's Honor System, you get free chocolate at my store. And you might get a lifetime free chocolate because nobody has gotten it so far because 30 years I watched PBS Mystery, I read mystery books, and I very carefully constructed this mystery with red herrings of who the culprit might be. And I didn't do that cheating thing that they do on PBS where they introduce the culprit right at the end. Like, wait a minute, we didn't even know about him and he started the fire? I don't do that. Okay, so I worked really hard on that. But through the portal of writing a straight line mystery, I trick you into reading about these other things. Like, I trick you into reading about what it's like for the Jamaican guest workers who are the engine of Cape Cod, make things run. What is their life like? Next time you go to a restaurant, go to the kitchen, see how hot it is. They're all hot. Every restaurant I go to, I couldn't last 45 minutes in that kitchen. And go see where they live. Like a lot of Jamaicans over the last really almost 20 years come and work in my pottery studio after they finish their regular restaurant job, so they're really working like 18 hours a day. So sometimes I would drive them home and I would see where they live. It'd be like a tool shed with 4 bunk beds on it, 8 people sleeping there. Another interesting thing is I found out that many of them have their own banking system, where instead of going to white guy banks, they have one Jamaican in Hyannis, maybe one in Provincetown, where they turn all over their money and they can take loans. There's no paperwork. So it's kind of wonderful. It's a kind of a wonderful honor system, banking system. So I got to write about that.
You also shed light on what it's like to not know who your birth parents are.
Yes, yes. And I hope that you went through that journey with Mary, the protagonist, and got to the sentence where she says, we spend our lives looking for the mother we wanted instead of seeing the mother we got. And that was kind of a hopeful but also very true thing.
Judith, I love this book so much. I laughed, I cried, it was wonderful. And one of the things I thought that was absolutely phenomenal was that you intermixed pottery making chapters with the narrative of the story. And it was a brilliant device because you learned more about Mary, about how she approached her work, what she thought, what she did, what she thought of the process. And in a way, you gave another dimension into that character. Now, I'd like to probe just a little bit. Did you set out to do that from the beginning, or did you add it on after the core of the narrative was in place?
It sort of came up maybe a third of the way through writing the first draft. First of all, I thought like nobody but potters would be interested in reading about the pottery stuff. And I always thought, as I was writing, it's like, okay, if you don't make pots, what does this mean to the reader? Nothing. But then I find out that people found it interesting. But for me, I was happy to put all that information about making pottery and the spiritual element of it, because it's like way better than church.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I hope that you take a class sometime. I mean, some of you have taken a class, so that's good. But I spent maybe 8 years in New York City. Oh gosh, this was a tough period. Well, the word had gotten out that I made cremation urns. So I made them even for pets, like chihuahuas, like in the book. But it was mostly for young men who were dying of AIDS. And in Greenwich Village on Bleecker Street, where my store was, the word got out that I would do this, and it was the most saddest thing, but also very spiritual thing, to go through the steps with a man standing there with Kaposi sarcoma all over his face, and try to make for him what he wanted as his vessel for his soul. And some of them were pretty wild. Like I made one of rainbow colors, a man bowling pins, the man in action bowling. He's asking me to do all these things, and I say, yeah, I can do that. I have no idea how to do it. But I married a wonderful man, Mr. O'Hara, who cut stencils for me. I still have the stencil of and this is 20 years ago, the fellow bowling and the bowling pins. And, another young man came in, and he said, the family of my partner hates me. And would you they said I could pick out the urn, but would you make a little one for a little bit of ashes that I can take that matches the big one? And I said, sure, I can do that. And then he gets into this very elaborate description of geometric patterns he'd seen in the Southwest and the colors and everything. And I absolutely don't know why, but every single urn I made came out great. And that's, if you're a potter, the averages are bad. You can lose, on average, 10 to 15% of your kiln to not big problems, little problems like bubbles or the wrong color or this or that, but they always were very good, beautiful. And I didn't take pictures. That was the day of clunky cameras. I didn't really have time for that.
Wow.
Yeah. That's, I suppose, another book, but I'm just totally not ready to write that because it was a very emotional experience, and I'm just not ready to write that.
Yes, Elizabeth?
Hi, sweetheart. Congratulations.
Really
The book
loud.
is lovely. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I know that you worked, or I think you worked with the memoir writing groups in Wellfleet and Truro, and then is that where you did a lot of the early work on this book?
Yes. Well, it's some of my friends from the memoir club are here, so that's really cool. It helped me sort through a lot of things I wanted to write about, to have people to talk to write excerpts and this and that. But I ultimately began to think that memoir is memory. That's all it is. Whatever happened, happened. You can have two people in the same family remember an event completely differently. And I didn't want to get into fact-checking my life. It's like, did that really happen or not? And I also felt a great freedom in writing fiction, because almost like I could tell the truth more, because I didn't have to worry about upsetting somebody or that wasn't their version of it or whatever. So the characters became an amalgam of people, not so much individual people. I could talk endlessly about what is memory and memoir. But this book is 100% fiction, peppered with the truth about this and that. Because what I decided is it's not whether this really happened or not. It's really the essence of the event that's important. It's the essence of, you know, the abortion doctor liking to have sex on the abortion table. That's the important thing. Why did he like that? Because the beginning of life, the end of life, and this table, you know? I mean, that's concept is what I found very interesting about the abortion doctor I knew. But I didn't want to get into fact checking. But I have to say that the part in the book about the abortion doctor saying, calling, well, this back then, you know, like in the 20s, 30s, 40s, the system was the abortion doctor would give a medicine to the woman, and she would go off and, you know, go into labor, and then have to bring the fetus back to the doctor, you know, like cover up the evidence. And the abortion doctor in real life actually called the bag with the fetus, whatever you want to call it, in it, mousy. That is completely true. I just thought that was the weirdest thing, and I had to put it in the book.
Wow. Oh, here we go.
Will you write more books?
Yes, actually, I'm writing a book on something completely different. It's probably really completely for women, I don't really know, but it's my experience. It's not a memoir, but it's based on my experience at 48 years old. I had this tremendous urge to reinvent myself, to reinvent my life, and it has a lot to do with menopause. That word you don't say out loud, menopause. I just did, and at the same time, other women I know were having this, so we decided to join the Bronx Irish Women's Soccer League in the Bronx. And I really didn't have much experience playing soccer, but I figured if my friend Marjorie was going to do it, I would do it. So we did that, and it was like the most amazing thing. It was the United Nations of women from all over the world, rough and tumble, empowered women, where the world is different when you get out on the field and you unlearn all your ladylike stuff. You just unlearn it, and it was really wonderful. But in the book, and this is based on one of the players, the mother has sort of like gotten so into this soccer thing in the Bronx that she doesn't notice that her 13-year-old daughter has sperm bank baby, has found her sperm bank siblings, and is actually having a little romance with one of them. So that's the book. And that is not 100% fiction. So you have to find out what happens.
Did you write it? Is it a novel?
It's a novel. It's 100% fiction.
And is that the kind of thing you have to tell the person that you wrote it? If it's not 100%.
Well, she's still around. She's not dead.
That's what I wanted.
And she is actually the same person who is daughter of the abortion doctor in real life. She was the one who had to carry Mousy from here to there for her father. But she's pretty cool. I'll talk to her about it. She's a wild one, so I don't think she's going to mind so much because, first of all, her child, it was a son who found his siblings, and in my story, it's a daughter. So I shook it up a little bit.
Any other comments, questions?
And I also have to say that a lot of this book was written sitting next to the Rose Dorothea in the library, but also at Deb McKay's brother's house in Wellfleet, at the table. It's so fun to have writing friends. And we formed a club that empowered me, that helped me write this book called The Wins Club. Yeah, because some of the feedback I had an agent back then. He was a different person, nice person, but he didn't understand what I was doing. He liked my writing, but he didn't understand what I was trying to say. And sometimes he'd say to me, it's a little bit raw. It's a little bit vulgar. And you go, yes, raw vulgarity. So that was nice. That was nice.
Well, we will have buy them, and she'll sign them out here. And then I want to just ask if for anyone, when this ends here, anyone that's willing, if you'd gather, or like we say in the South, if you'd hug up together with Judith so I can get a photograph of this beautiful audience, that would be wonderful. And Judith, let me turn this. Thank you so much. Thank you. And then I'll say something when this is off.
It's very fun to talk about the book because I miss the characters in my book. I lived with them for 8 years, lived with them some in real life, and now I had to stop because the book is done and it's published. And I don't think I'm going to have a sequel, but maybe.
Don't rule it out.
Yes, don't rule it out.
Thank you.
Thank you.